So I've gotten to use the FabFilter Pro Q4 for a little while now. I've gotten to feel it out, see what things I actually like, what things I don't really use, and not just all the hype around the release of it. So if you want an unbiased opinion on is it worth it or not, what do I actually use from someone that's not sponsored and has actually used it in practice, then let's talk about it. Yo, what's good, guys? Inswain with Inswain Audio. Welcome back here to the channel. If you're new, subscribe and stick around because I drop videos like this every single day, all about music and music tips. You're not going to want to miss them. But let's talk about the FabFilter Pro Q4. So you've probably heard about it. If you haven't gotten it yet, you know there's a ton of hype around it, ton of new features. You get some people saying everything's great and amazing, but are they being paid to sponsor it? Other people want to get clicks and be contrarian, so they try to, downplay it. And it's hard to find that middle of the ground. Well, that's what I'm here for. This isn't sponsored at all. This is just someone who saw those videos, decided for myself I wanted to get it and try it out. And I've used it for a little bit now. That's why this video is a little bit late. And I'm going to give you my honest thoughts on it. So first, we need to clear up in terms of how it sounds based on the features that were also in the Pro Q3, just like typical bands or dynamic bands or anything. Just using the features that had already existed, it's identical one-to-one. People have done null tests. I'm not going to do it. It sounds the exact same. So it doesn't sound better, but it definitely doesn't sound worse. So you don't need to worry about that, or different, right? It doesn't sound different. It's that same sound that we all love, just with some added features. Now, a lot of these features, for me personally, I don't use, like the instance list where you can see all the different instances of the Pro Q. I don't really like to use that. Not that it's bad or that it doesn't work. It's just not something that I use in my workflow. Or the sketch draw EQ right here, whatever it's called, where you can draw in your EQ shape. Not really my thing. It's not that it's bad or that it doesn't work inherently. It's just not something that I do for my workflow personally. And from a lot of what I've seen, a lot of other people don't see a use for it themselves. So this is something that it's a nice thing to have. Yeah, it doesn't harm you in any way. You don't have to use it. Just like the instance list thing. These are things that are there. They're cool, but I don't really know anyone that uses them really or would have a use for them. But, they don't harm you. So they're not like a negative. It's just like, if you like it, go ahead. But just be careful. It's a cool new flashy thing. It might not actually be something you use. So, you got to think, are you actually going to use it, or does it just kind of like to draw you into the door? So those are just the things that I don't really use. But let's talk about what I do like. What I do absolutely love about this plugin is two things. One is with the dynamic bands now, we have attack and release and a threshold. If you know, you know. On the previous version, on the 3 with the dynamic, it was just built in. You couldn't change the threshold, the attack, the release. It was all built in, program dependent, whatever the algorithm is, you couldn't adjust it. Now, a lot of times it worked just fine and it was what you needed, but sometimes you wanted to change the threshold, or you wanted to use the attack and release, or you could even have it trigger from different frequencies now, which I haven't used yet, but I'm sure I'll use it eventually. But it's super niche. It's not really something that it's like, oh, you're going to use it all the time. I don't think, but it is nice to have. But the attack, release, and threshold, I use all the time now for my dynamic bands. It's so nice to be able to fine tune that. You can get a lot more of an accurate result of what you want. It's so great. This right here alone is already worth it for the price of the upgrade. 100% in my opinion. Those attack, release, threshold right there alone is worth the upgrade. But let's also talk about the other thing that I really like, and that is the spectral processing. This spectral processing kind of works like a soothe. It kind of puts like fine bands within the band. This right here is also worth the price of the upgrade just for that feature alone, in my opinion. Especially if you don't have soothe, you can kind of use this like a soothe just with that one feature. Plus, it's also a dynamic EQ as well. Now, I don't use this all the time. I don't automatically turn every band on the spectral. I try to not use it if possible, but when I need it, it's amazing. The other day, I was mastering somebody's mix. It was a song that I hadn't mixed, but I had to master it. And there were some frequencies, some issues, some spectral processing that needed to be done because I didn't have my hands on the mix. I would have fixed it in the mix if possible, but I didn't have that. So this is a realistic thing that might happen. So I had to master their mix, and there was some vocal harshness popping out in the mids. So what I did was I created a band like this, right? And I put it to just the mids where the vocal was, because the vocal was in the middle. And then, I did some dynamic, something like this, I don't remember. And I did that spectral processing. So I was able to target those harsh resonances that were poking out of the vocal down the middle of the stereo field and not really affect anything else. And I was able to tame that vocal harshness in a master. Those resonances that were poking out, I was able to attenuate them in a master, almost separating the vocals out, which isn't what I actually did, but that's how the processing was happening. And that's impossible to do with the Pro Q3. That alone right there made it worth it. So in my honest opinion, there's a lot of cool features that I'm just not going to use. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. But a lot of people that I've seen their reviews of the plugin, they say, yeah, I don't really use it. I can speak from my experience. I don't use the draw EQ and I don't use the instance list. But the attack, release, and threshold and the dynamic bands and the spectral processing, those two things alone are absolute game changers. And once again, this isn't sponsored at all. No one's paying me, swaying me, or influencing me to say this. This is just my honest feedback after using it. Those are going to get a lot of mileage, especially the attack, release, and threshold. Spectral processing, not as much, but when you do need it, it is an absolute lifesaver. There's so much you can do with this plugin. And like I said, it's kind of like a Soothe. And if you already have the Pro Q3, you get the discounted upgrade price. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you how to spend your money, but in my opinion, I did the upgrade. It was 1,000% worth it. I'd do it again and again and again. So there you have it, guys. There's my honest thoughts on the Pro Q4 after seeing a bunch of reviews of it, getting it myself, and actually using it. Not with the excitement of just getting it. This is how I actually feel about it after I had some time to let the dust settle. So let me know down in the comments below. Do you have Pro Q4? Have you been thinking about picking it up? Do you like these features? Are you going to try them out? Are you excited for them? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. If you could, throw me a like and subscribe if you stuck around this long. If not, no worries. But I'm going to get y'all tomorrow, man. In Swain with Swain Audio. Peace.